Welcome back to the Body Composition Coach podcast, and today we are talking about alcohol. Now, what's really important, obviously, before I get into alcohol and talk about kind of the sciencey bits, I suppose, around it, is I'll give you my views and kind of my stance on alcohol and how I use it or don't use it or whatever. But before we do any of that, as always, if you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a review, give us a 5-star review, let us know you're listening. Thousands of you listen, only tens, maybe 25 of you have left a review and let us know what you think. So please just let us know what you think. Drop us a comment, drop us a like, give us a 5-star review, share us with a mate. Let's spread this podcast as far and as wide as we possibly can. And look, it's massively appreciated as always. So my stance on alcohol, let's get into that. So how I kind of use it or don't use it is I would say that I don't drink. Generally, I don't drink. Now, I don't call myself teetotal. I don't box myself off like that because I'd probably be lying. Like, I will every now and again have a drink. My tipple, if you want to know, if anyone wants to buy me any presents, is if you ever need to buy me a drink, my tipple is a Negroni. Now, every 2 to 3 months, let's say, I'll have a Negroni. Probably just one, and that'll kind of satisfy my enjoyment of that thing, right? That's why I don't say I'm teetotal, because I'd be lying. And if anyone ever caught me drinking, they'd be like, Jono, you've been telling us you're teetotal. I'm not. I don't need to box myself in that way. But yeah, every now and again in a Negroni. Now, my reasoning for doing that is a couple of things. One, I generally feel rubbish after drinking alcohol, if I'm honest. I generally feel really rubbish. Now, I have had all the hangovers and felt ill and the sickness and all of that stuff. But I suppose I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking just generally about that rubbish feeling you get the morning after or the day after and how unproductive you feel. I hate that. Like, I am an early riser. I like to get up. I like to get on. Even on days when I'm not at the gym at 5:30 or whatever. On a weekend, like, I love to be up and out and first one at the coffee shop. It's just like a thrill I obviously get, right? Alcohol generally negatively impacts that for me. So from my point of view, that's my main reasoning. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, and I'm very aware that if you're listening to this podcast, you may be a drinker and you may be absolutely unwilling to give up alcohol. But I think you can make that decision way more informed with this podcast and the stuff I'm going to talk about. So let's start with like the sleep element, because that is the biggest knock-on effect. Like for me, the next day when I wake up and feel rubbish, generally, yes, it's a little bit of a hangover kind of thing. I mean, I've not had a hangover for years. When I used to wake up with a hangover and I'd feel terrible, but it's mainly because my sleep's been so badly interrupted. Generally, and I'm not going to make this podcast sleep related, I'll do another one on sleep specifically. But if we're talking about sleep and we're talking about the science, REM is the thing that's kind of massively affected. So you'll get 25% less REM sleep, which is actually quite an important part of the recovery process if we're talking about like muscle building in general. But just generally, you will sleep worse. You'll have much more interrupted sleep. Therefore, mood is affected the next day. Hunger is affected the next day. Energy and fatigue is affected the next day. Your recovery from your training or whatever it might be that you've been doing is worse the next day. So it has like a knock-on effect. It's not just, oh, I didn't sleep that well, boo-hoo. It is like there is then a knock-on effect of you drank alcohol, that has its own effects. You then didn't sleep very well. The knock-on effect of that for you can last days. Like I used to find, I don't know if anyone's ever found this, but I used to find if I drank, let's say I drank on like a Saturday night, and then my training would be rubbish until maybe like Thursday. And then I'd suddenly kind of start to come back. And it's not because I felt hungover still on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, but the knock-on, the impact was really visible to see in terms of my performance and probably generally from the sleep disruption. Obviously then hunger is affected from sleep. So if you're on a fat loss journey, having alcohol as part of your fat loss journey is so detrimental. In my opinion, so detrimental. It just changes your hunger signaling. And even if you're like, do you know what, I can battle through it, and people do this, I can battle through it, I'm good on a hangover, I can deal with it. You cannot dispute that your hunger signaling changes. So therefore, even if you have the best willpower in the world, that is going to be tested if you've been drinking and your hunger signaling is strong. Another element to the kind of hunger signaling, its kind of hormonal responses, is the insulin sensitivity. So insulin sensitivity, again, I'm not going to make this podcast about that, but insulin sensitivity is really heavily involved in like the recovery process. And when I talk about recovery process, I talk about like muscle protein synthesis, so building muscle. You will be impacted in your ability to do that. So your body will not utilize muscle protein synthesis in the same way that it would normally, because your insulin sensitivity is down, your recovery is down, your sleep has been rubbish. So that's kind of the knock-on effect there. So we're talking, if you want numbers, we're talking like 20 to 30% less muscle built, basically. So muscle protein synthesis is the process of which you build muscle. It's the thing that happens like when you've trained really hard and you've eaten your protein and you've got sufficient carbs and you've got sufficient sleep. The then thing that happens is muscle protein synthesis. Within the muscle, you build muscle, right? That's impacted like 20 to 30%. So let's say you're going to the gym, you're slogging away, you're training hard, and you'll start to see why I don't really drink very often. You're training really hard, you're putting all that effort in. You drink, you're getting 20 to 30% less output than, say, me who doesn't. Like, that's the level of impact that is had from you just having a few drinks here and there, right? And look, I'm not saying that one drink on a Saturday night or two drinks on a Saturday night is going to, like, you're going to do 20 to 30% less. But those times around where you are drinking, you're getting 20 to 30% less output than what you would have done if you weren't drinking. And for me, you know, I go to the gym and I work really hard. Getting up at 4:50 in the morning to get myself to the gym, I do not enjoy that. I might be a morning person, but you believe me, I do not enjoy when my alarm goes off at 10 to 5. So to think that I would do that and then impact the results I get from doing it by 20 to 30% by drinking, you better believe I'm not going to do it because I would rather just not get up at 4:50. One of the other things that kind of impacts from alcohol is cortisol, which is like your stress hormone. So cortisol is available, or what's the word I'm looking for, is within the body because you are stressed at something. Now, it can be anything, right? So like training creates a bit of a cortisol spike. When you wake up in the morning, there's a bit of a cortisol spike. This is all natural and should happen, right? And again, I won't get into the stress hormones and cortisol today. It's a very natural reaction. But also, if I was getting chased by a bear, you believe me, my cortisol will be through the roof. If you drink alcohol, your cortisol goes up. You see, like, cortisol reacts to a stressor. It doesn't need to be like, oh, I'm stressed from work, which would create a cortisol spike, or even consistently high cortisol. But it is your response to stress. It is your fight or flight reaction. Now, it's also very, very important that you have cortisol spikes for your recovery. So when everyone's talking about you never want cortisol on your body, or believe me, you do, because this is one of the kind of recovery signaling mechanisms within your body. When you recover from your training, you have your cortisol spike, and that's great. And it helps you to start to recover from it. Like, your body needs that. Your alcohol consumption will affect your cortisol secretion, how your body utilizes cortisol. So again, it will put you into a more stressed state and not necessarily help you to recover. So you can see how we're starting to accumulate a few things here. And I haven't even talked about calories yet. And I'm sure loads of you listen to this like, when's he going to talk about how many calories in alcohol? And I'll get there. But so far, we've got sleep disruption is down, or sleep disruption is up, sleep quality is down. We've got hunger signaling going through the roof. And that's kind of part of the problem from alcohol weight gain and beyond calories, is how much you then want to eat. And it might only be an extra few hundred calories here and there, but you spread that across weeks and months, it makes a huge difference. We've got insulin sensitivity being down. We've got protein synthesis being down 20 to 30%. We've got cortisol, your stress hormone, being up and your recovery being disrupted. We've got 6 points here as to the negative impacts of alcohol. So you can start to see here now why generally when clients come to me, my recommendation is that we drink a lot less, or we try not to drink. Now, like I said at the start, I'm a realist. People do. Like, I have many clients, most of my clients still drink. They're not like completely teetotal. But if there's one thing that a client can do, which is going to impact their journey significantly positively, it is significantly reduce alcohol, if not stop drinking. You can see that from the points I'm making here, right? Now let's get on to the one that you're probably waiting for, which is the calorie thing. Like, listen, and 2 to 3 glasses of wine a night, you know, just kind of a couple of nights a week, can add up to like 750 to, let's say, 900 or 1,000 calories, depending on like how big the glasses are and how many you have, obviously. But just a couple of nights drinking can put you up to like 1,000 calories up a week. Now, turn those into like binge drinking sessions where you're having 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, some of you maybe 10 drinks in a night. You can start to see how that really starts to accumulate. This can be 1,000 a week, it can be more, but I don't even think that's the main thing here. I think it's the fact that you take that 1,000 calories a week, that's 4,000 calories a month, that's 52,000 calories a year, which is massive just from a couple of drinks here and there. So if you can learn to not have that or learn to enjoy something that's not alcohol, you can see the massive impact there. And you can see why people lose weight just because they stop drinking. But the kind of layering on top of that point is your inhibitions change and your decision making changes, and your ability to say no to the chocolate, the crisps, the sweets, the peanuts, whatever it might be that you eat when you drink, becomes less. So actually layer on top of the 1,000 calories from alcohol every week you're getting, how many calories are you then getting from the snacks that you probably wouldn't have if you hadn't drank, right? So then we're starting to talk, or maybe it's like 1,500 calories a week, maybe it's 2,000 calories a week. Then we're getting into the realms of a whole day's worth of calories, which if you spread that across your other days and had snacks and food and protein, whatever, you could get so much impact from. So forgetting the 6 points that I made at the very start as to how, alcohol negatively impacts you, then when we talk about the calories generally and the decisions you make afterwards, it goes without saying that you got to really, really enjoy having a drink for there to be like a positive here. And ultimately it's always going to be a net negative, I think, but it's got to mean a lot to you that you have that drink. And I think from a social point of view, let's not forget about the fact that from a social point of view, there are expectations, almost social norms around alcohol. That I think, as somebody who doesn't drink generally, I think anyone that I spend time with or I'm in company with, they fully understand that I'm probably not going to have a drink. 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to have a drink. And I'm pretty good. Well, I'm very good at saying no. But I think other people that spend time with me, maybe initially 5-6 years ago when I stopped drinking, they would have found it weird. And actually I did struggle with that to start with, is the impact on other people, strangely. So if I went to the pub and I was meeting some mates and I was like, right, yeah, no, I'm just going to have a tonic water or whatever, the surprise and shock that was met with, or like that social encouragement, which I always find really weird. It's like, no, go on, have one, which I just find that really strange, because it doesn't really impact you if I drink or if I don't drink. You have the drink that you want. Does it make people feel better about their decisions? I don't know. I'm not actually here to talk about that. I'm not here to judge anyone for whether they drink or don't drink. I've always found that social encouragement or that social norm of like, well, if other people are having a drink, then you should have a drink or you have to have a drink. I've found that quite peculiar personally. But listen, each to their own. We all have our own ways of approaching things. But I think there is something around this subject that's worth discussing, and that is almost like your responsibility and your outsourcing of that responsibility or decisions. And I think one thing that I see with, especially generally the people that I work with are either like business owners, or they have like high profile jobs, or they have, in a one-to-one context anyway, or they have like significant corporate roles or whatever it might be, right? And I think one of the things that comes with that is like client meals, client drinks, work socials, and then layer on top of that date nights and things with friends and those kind of things, going out with the wife and kids or whatever it might be, or the husband and kids. And I think one thing that I will always kind of stand up to with clients is this outsourcing of responsibility. Because when you go out for like a meal, or you go out for drinks, or there's a work do, or there's a work social, you are fully responsible for your decisions, right? And this isn't like an attack on anybody, but you are fully responsible for your decisions. Like when I go to the pub and I decide, I'm not drinking, I have no problem telling somebody I'm not drinking. I'm going to have a Coke Zero. And if somebody's like, oh, go on, I'm pretty cool with just being like, look, I'm not going to have a drink. Carry on as we are. Let's keep going, right? So there's no issue there for me. But for some reason, I've had clients in the past loads of times where they come to me like, oh, it was a work event. I had no choice. Let me tell you now, you had a choice. There was a choice and you made the choice. And I think this is what ties in with the social norm, right? It's like, oh, well, going out with the girls on Saturday and there's just no choice. I'm going to have a drink. You don't have to. You don't have to. Like, there is pressure. There is absolutely social pressure. And it absolutely is more difficult to say no. But don't tell me you have to, because you don't. You don't have to. And it really depends. And listen, I won't sit here and say you just shouldn't be drinking, because I don't believe that, right? But if you want to achieve something that much, if you are set on, I am achieving this goal no matter what, then saying no to a few drinks here or there should be quite an easy thing to do, right? Like, if that's the goal, and it only has to be temporary, But if you're saying in 3 months' time, I want to be in the shape of my life, in 6 months' time, I want to be in the shape of my life, just say no to a few drinks for a little while. Surely that makes sense. You have that power to say no to things. You can still go to the event and not drink. You can go to that work meal and not have any of the wine. You can go, and this ties into food as well, right? Like, you have the ability to say no to things. There is no event at all. I mean, I'm getting married soon, right? So I'm just thinking, like, at my wedding, I will choose to drink. But if I didn't want to drink, I don't have to drink. And I think this is something that I talk to clients, and probably in a slightly different way than I'm talking now. This is just me sat casually chatting about it. But I'll have this conversation with clients. Like, you are responsible for your outcomes. If you want to achieve a certain amount of fat loss, a certain amount of muscle gain, you are responsibility for that outcome. Not me as the coach, not your friends that you're going out for drinks with, not your work colleagues that you're going to work dinner with. They are not responsible. You cannot outsource the responsibility for you achieving the results to them. And if you come back from an event and you say, I had to drink, I had to eat this, I had to do X, Y, and Z, what you are doing is outsourcing that responsibility to somebody else. That is where I see a lot of people not achieve the results that they set out to achieve, because they're outsourcing responsibility elsewhere. The clients who do really, really well, I've been chatting to a couple of my clients this morning over the app, and they've been sending me their pictures, and they are in the shape of their life, and I cannot wait to share it with you. One person's lost 20 kilos. Got one lady who's in her 40s who has very visible chiseled abs. She's never had that. She's worked with personal trainers and stuff before. But if I talk about those clients who are 20 kilos down, and the other lady who's got her visible abs and doing her pull-ups and those sort of things, the thing that they have in common is they've all taken responsibility for their decisions and their choices. And also the other way around, like when they do go and drink, they come back and they're like, that was my choice. I made that decision. I'm cool with it. I'm okay with it. And that's fine as well. If you want to have a drink and you're really keen for it, cool. Have it, but like, be okay with the fact that you're probably going to impact your sleep and then your results and your training and whatever for the next week or so. So look, that's my view on alcohol, and there's a lot of negatives to it. I don't force anybody to have a stance on alcohol. That's just my stance. I do prefer when clients don't drink. It makes getting amazing results easier. But the main thing I think around alcohol, despite its net negatives or net positive, however you want to look at it, the main thing is just take responsibility for it. Like, if you want to drink, you're desperate that, like, drinking needs to be a part of your life. Desperate's probably the wrong word, but you really want drinking to be a part of your life, then please keep it as part of your life. But do not outsource responsibility to somebody else in events and going out for drinks and whatever. Do not outsource responsibility. Like, you have the choice, and if getting the results is really important to you, it's okay if it's not, by the way, but if getting the results is really important to you, then you might just need to drink a little bit less for a little while. And that's okay, because you can get the results you want, and that's really important to you, so that's cool, right? So listen, as always, if you've enjoyed this episode, I've enjoyed filming this one, please leave us a review, 5 stars as always. Leave a little comment, let me know your thoughts. What are your thoughts on drinking alcohol? Do you drink? Do you not drink? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I'm all for any kind of comments and debate that you want to have. And as always, if you want to work with us, if you're like, do you know what, I'm going to stop doing this on my own, because I've listened to, I don't know what episode we're on now, but this must be 28, 29. You've listened to all of my episodes and you're like, you know what, I think I need some help with this. I think I need to get stuck in, work with Jono for a little bit and get the body composition, the muscle building, the fat loss results that I've been trying to get for years, that I've never managed to get, or I've really struggled to get. Go to Instagram, go to my bio, click the links. You can apply to work with me one-to-one. You can apply to work with us within a group program, or kind of whatever we have on at the time. But I'd love to work with you guys. I'd love to help you achieve the things that you're setting out to achieve. I'd love to help you build muscle and lose fat and get into the shape of your life, like the clients that I talk about all the time. But for the meantime, for now, I'll see you on the next episode, and don't forget that review.